edition of Bet. I'm Anita Marks. I'm your host. We've got a great show lined up for you on this Thursday night. Tyler Fulghum is going to be joining us from Las Vegas. We'll do a deep dive, not just into the Thursday night game tonight with the Jags in New York. Weather conditions are quite frightful against the Jets. But also we've got Eric Moody who's going to be joining us as well. Todd Archer and Tim McManus is going to join us to preview that Cowboys-Philadelphia Eagles game on Christmas Eve. So a lot coming your way. Buckle up. Let's take you to Vegas right now. Tyler Fulghum is joining us here on Bet. How you doing, Tyler?
Ready to rock and roll, Anita?
Let's do it. All right, LeBron James plus 110 to break the NBA scoring record at home. Okay, we know that this is what a lot of his motivation has been. What's your good word, friend?
Hollywood. Because we know LeBron in LA is all about that Hollywood life. He's got his production company. He knows and is a historian of the game. So he remembers Kobe in his final game ever at then Staples Center, scoring those 60 points. And at plus 110, I mean, why not? It would be Hollywood for LeBron. I'm sure there's cameras following him as he pursues Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm sure it's going to be documented and come out later in his life as part of the LeBron 10-part series, 10-part documentary that chronicles LeBron's life and career in the NBA. So I say it's Hollywood. It's perfect for him to kind of try and see if he can align the stars so it happens at home.
And I'm sure he will end up producing it himself. My good word is prize, as in eye on the prize. And this has really been this season for the Lakers, right? I mean, where are they going? Playing game? Possibly. I don't know. But you know, and again, as you said, right? Like looking to surpass, and more than likely it could happen if he continues to average 27 points a game. We're looking at mid-February. No AD. We know he's on the shelf for about 30 days. We know that LeBron's having to carry the team. Obviously, a lot is going to depend on whether or not he can be healthy. But let's be honest, Tyler, right? Like, if he's going to break the record, of course, you call it Hollywood. I call it prize as an eye on the prize. It's got to happen in Tinseltown. So, yes, I will play that wager. Number two, Micah Parsons plus 160 for Defensive Player of the Year. His biggest competition, obviously, is Nick Bosa with the 49ers. He's the favorite at minus 130. What's your good word?
For Parsons, it's fading, kind of like this Dallas defense. Parsons had a sack against the Jacksonville Jags, but over the last 3 or 4 weeks, he's really slowed down and allowed Nick Bosa to become the favorite. The Dallas defense is not near as formidable the last 3 or 4 weeks as it was earlier in the season, and that is mostly due in part to some injuries in the back end that's depleted their secondary depth. Now Leighton Vander Esch is dealing with another stinger, which is dangerous because that may shift the role that Micah Parsons has to play, taking him away from the line of scrimmage and more into a traditional linebacker role. So he is fading. I don't know if I would make this bet, and we'll get to it in a little bit when we discuss this Cowboys-Eagles game, but I don't even know if this team's going to win this week. And if that's the case, then the Eagles run away with that division and a first-round bye, and San Francisco's a team that's playing its best football right now, which would support Bosa. So fading Micah Parsons in that Dallas defense.
My good word is bro. Like, bro. Like, give me one of the bros, right? Like, give me the Bosa brothers. That's my good word. Listen, we know Parsons started strong, no doubt about it. And full disclosure, was one of my futures bets that I placed before the season even began for Parsons to win Defensive Player of the Year. But man, Bosa, 2.5 more sacks than Parsons, but even more impressive, second in the league in tackles for a loss, and he's got 16 of those. And also pressuring the quarterback. He's got 47 pressures on the quarterback. Parsons only has 34. So I'm with you. I think Nick Bosa is the way to roll right now. Go with the bro. All right, Zach Wilson plus 129 to not throw an interception tonight. What's your good word?
Bro, it seems like that's kind of crazy. So my good word is windy here. And we have talked about it. We did it on Daily Wager. We'll do it right now. Weather conditions are going to affect A lot of football games this weekend. It starts tonight, East Rutherford in your backyard there, Anita, where we know it's going to be really rainy and pretty windy. And Zach Wilson is one of the most inaccurate and sloppy throwers of the football, especially in the short to intermediate areas. The guy actually throws a really good deep ball, anything that's, 15 to 20 yards downfield, and he can just let it rip, not think, but just let that thing rip full go. He's pretty good. And you see the arm talent why he was drafted number 2 overall. It's the other shorter throws that you would think would be easier, where his feet are all out of whack, his platform's off kilter, his arms dipping below his shoulder, and sometimes completing a 5-yard pass to the flat is the most difficult thing for Zach Wilson to do. So with the windy conditions, I think he does throw an interception. I would not take this bet, and I think it's going to come on a relatively short pass relative to how far it travels beyond the line of scrimmage.
My good word is toss, as in, yeah, he's going to toss at least one interception tonight, especially in these weather conditions. And I do believe that he just has so much, he's such immense pressure on himself. Take it from me, Tyler. I'm here in New York. I host Sports Talk Radio. Man, these fans, they want to see Mike White. They don't want Zach Wilson at the helm anymore. So he's putting on the pressure. Did not have a great performance against the Lions this week. The Jags, they've got 12 interceptions on the season. Zach Wilson has 6. So I just think the pressure, along with trying to do too much tonight, along with the weather, I think Zach Wilson's good for a pick. Let's do a deeper dive into this matchup. Again, the Jags here in New York. The Jets are favored by 2.5. Surprise, surprise. The over-under's at 36.5. What's your play in the game?
Yeah, I lean towards the Jags side, but I really like the under as my best bet on Daily Wager about 35 minutes ago. Bottom line here is we have one quarterback who's on an absolute heater, and his name is Trevor Lawrence. But this is a really difficult spot because he's traveling on the road, it's windy and rainy weather, it's short rest, and you're going up against a Jets defense that is elite against the pass. They are awesome defending the pass with their cornerbacks and, of course, their front 7 and Robert Saleh and that scheme that he's got. On the other side, you got Zach Wilson, who we just said is more likely to throw a pick maybe than even a touchdown, and has all this pressure on him. The ceiling with Zach Wilson under center for this Jets offense comes down considerably versus Mike White. Garrett Wilson doesn't become as effective. The running game, you may be able to focus more on that. So I'm going to play this under, and I lean to the Jags. What I'm thinking kind of happens here is like a 17-16 game, a 16-14 type of game where Wilson and the Jets turn it over late in the fourth quarter trying to salt the game away, and then Trevor Lawrence marches his team downfield for a game-winning field goal or touchdown late. But it is a low-scoring game that comes under. I would lean to the Jags plus the points.
I like the Jags in this spot. I really do. So I'm going to play the Jags. Give me the points. Thank you very much. Also, I think this is a great opportunity to use the Jags as a 2-team 6-point teaser. Tease them up right now. You get them at 8.5. You win that. Now you got your first leg set heading into, of course, the weekend slate of games. And the one I'm eyeing as well is the Bills in Chicago. Look, they're still trying to have that compete and have that road go through Orchard Park on the way to Glendale for the Super Bowl. So that's what I would tee it up with. But as for the Jacksonville Jaguars, again, you said it. We talked about it on Daily Wager earlier today. Trevor Lawrence has just been a man possessed. And he's just been averaging 280 passing yards a game. His last 6 games, he's got 14 touchdowns, only 1 interception. He's really been able to digest Doug Peterson's offense and has been able to execute it extremely well. Meanwhile, Zach Wilson getting the start for the Jets. No bueno, Tyler, that's for sure. When he does quarterback, they only average 20 points a game, if not less. And we did say something on Daily Wager. I did say that Quinn Williams was not going to play. That is inaccurate. I was texting, of course, with Rich Cimini, who does a phenomenal job covering the Jets. And Quinn Williams is going to be active. But keep in mind, not 100%. More importantly, injuries on the offensive line for the Jets, I think, is going to be a really, really big issue. So I do like the Jags. Let's take a look at some of the prop bets out there. What are some of the prop bets you're going to be playing tonight?
Yeah, I got a couple. One is just playing under with Zach Wilson. I don't think he's going to throw the football a lot. I don't think he's going to complete a lot of passes. And if he does, they're not going to go for very many yards. So I'm under 188.5. Christian Kirk on the other side. I just talked about how great this pass defense is for the Jets. They are elite at the perimeter quarterback spots with Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. Where they are a little vulnerable is in the middle underbelly of that defense. Slot receivers have had really good games against the Jets relative to expectation. That's where Christian Kirk operates, so I think he can go over 4.5 receptions as the top target for Trevor Lawrence when he does drop back to throw.
For me, I've got 3 for you. Love Evan Ingram over receiving yards. Don't forget, he played for the Giants for a few years. He knows the stadium extremely well. Last 3 weeks, 32 targets. Jets, they're great against wide receivers, but not so great against tight ends. I think he could have a big night. Christian Kirk running almost 70% out of the slot. That's one of the biggest weaknesses for the Jets and their secondary. And also Josh Allen getting a sack. As we said, some injuries with Brown and Fant to that offensive line for the Jets. Therefore, Josh Allen, 5 sacks this season. I think he gets another one tonight. All right, we have a special segment coming your way because we're in the giving spirit, and it is Christmas, and it is the holidays. Tyler and I are going to gift each other 3 plays for Christmas that we would 100% bet ourselves. And since I'm the host, Tyler, I want to present my gift to you first, okay? So here are the 3 plays, my 3 favorite plays for the holiday weekend. So number 1 is the Bengals. I'm sticking with the Big Cats. I'm riding the Big Cats against the Pats. 11-1 against the spread, 10-2 straight up. How do the Pats recover from that horrible last play against the Raiders? I don't think they can. They're 0-4 against teams that are above 500, and certainly that's what the Bengals are. Give me the Steelers. -2.5 against the Raiders. A big emotional game with the unfortunate passing of Franco Harris on the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. Weather's going to be brutal. Carr is from Cali. He's 0-4 in freezing temperatures, and that's exactly what it's going to be. Kenny Pickett is back at quarterback for Pittsburgh, and of course, we know he went to the University of Pittsburgh, so he's going to be fine. And last but not least, I'm going to give you a 2-team 6-point teaser with the Eagles and the Giants. I'm calling this my Christmas NFC East special teaser for you. I love the Eagles. I still believe in Gardner Minshew. He's played in 30 games. He's done well for the Eagles when he's come in, possibly getting Goddard back. More importantly, this Eagles defense has been playing extremely well, number 1 in turnover rate. And meanwhile, all Dak Prescott's been doing the last few weeks, 9 interceptions the last few weeks. So that's going to be, I think, really a big key in that matchup. And then I love the Giants. I know they're on the road after a really big win against Washington. But this Minnesota Vikings defense, they are 31st in the NFL against the pass. So I think it's going, and they can't pressure the quarterback. So I think Daniel Jones is going to have a lot of time to get back there, throw the football, a lot more Saquon Barkley. We saw how healthy he looked. And I think this Giants front 7 is going to be able to get to Kirk Cousins. So those are my 3 gifted plays for you, sir. What is your Christmas gift for me?
Well done. I had Cincinnati -3 on my Christmas wish list, so you being Santa bringing me that, I love. I had the Steelers over their season win total, so they need wins down the stretch, and I love that you're taking them to cover and win against the Raiders. And I like the Eagles, like you, and the G-Men plus the points, so get an extra 6. I don't have any teasers in my closet at home, so my first teaser is an NFC East special from you, Anita. I love my gifts. Here is what I am offering to you. It's Christmas Day, and unfortunately, it's going to be a boring one, I think. Denver at my LA Rams. Mark Rippon, Baker Mayfield, 2 offenses that stink. I'm going under 36.5 there. I think Philadelphia and Dallas is an entertaining game, going over the total of 46.5, because I do think Gardner Minshew can keep this Philadelphia Eagles offense on schedule. An elite offensive line, elite skill player weapons, and Dallas Goedert potentially coming back. Great coaching staff led by Sirianni, and a Dallas defense that we talked about is fading a little bit here down the stretch. So I think that game could be entertaining and somewhat of a shootout. And then I'll move to the NBA on Christmas Day. The Warriors, they are at home. But they still stink right now without Steph Curry. And the Grizz, led by Ja Morant, I think, put on a show, win and cover against Golden State. My 3 gifts to you for the holiday weekend.
I so appreciate it, Tyler. Thank you so much. You enjoy the Thursday night game tonight. I'll see you tomorrow on Daily Wager.
Sounds good, Anita.
You got it. All right, we go from Tyler to Eric Moody joining us now, talking a little NBA, and we're going to get to some NFL as well. So, Eric, welcome into Bet. Really do appreciate it. Let's talk about the Spurs and the Pelicans. Pelicans still favored by 9. The over-under is at 228 with no Zion and no Ingram. I'm a little surprised with this line. What's your play in this matchup?
Yeah, I actually like 2 props in this game, Anita. And I know you mentioned about Zion Williamson is out, Brandon Ingram's out. I do like Herb Jones in this game to go over 19.5 points, assists, and rebounds. Now, I know he's been up and down this season. You know, he's missed around 9 games due to injury, but he is trending up at a perfect time. Now, I know he's only averaged 10.2 points, 2.2 assists, and 3.4 rebounds per game, but you got to look at this matchup. He's going up against a Spurs team that ranks 30th in points allowed per 100 possessions, so I like him in this game. Last but not least, I do like Jonas Valanciunas in this game to go over 31.5 points plus rebounds. Now, I mentioned about the defensive woes that the Spurs have. They also give up a ton of offensive rebounds as well, and they also give up the highest effective field goal percentage to opponents in the league, so the highest. No other team allows opponents to shoot, a higher effective field goal percentage. So I love Valanciunas in this game, and he's performed really well over the last 4 games. He's actually averaged 17.5 points and 10.2 rebounds. I believe he can exceed those per game averages in this game.
I have one of my favorite prop bets in this game, and I used it with Daily Wager as my best bet, and that's CJ McCollum. Again, with Zion and Ingram out, he's going to be the straw that stirs the drink. And without Zion, he averages 6 assists a game. Without Zion, it's 8. And obviously, with those 2 dudes off the court, somebody's going to have to shoot the ball. And he actually put up 31 points against the Bucks the other night. So over points and assists for CJ McCollum. That's my play in this matchup. Let's turn our attention to what's going on in the NFL, Eric, because this is going to be a brutal weekend with some horrific weather all over. Look at this, all over the country. Cleveland, Baltimore, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Kansas City. Especially, and keep in mind, fantasy football folks out there, they're competing to try to make it to the championship in these type of conditions, especially if you play DFS. What I'd like to do with you is focus on some of the games that aren't going to have this horrible weather that we can really dive into and make a fair case. So let's start first and foremost. Detroit going up against Carolina. Weather conditions are supposed to be chilly, but nowhere like we just saw in that graphic. Detroit favored by 2.5. The over-unders at 43.5 here. How are you playing this matchup?
Yeah, I like the over in this matchup. As you mentioned, weather will not be a factor, so you don't have to worry about high winds or anything like that. And one thing about Jared Goff and the Lions, they've obviously played much better at home, averaging 32 points per game, as opposed to on the road where they only average 18.7 points per game. But I am optimistic because they scored 20 points against the Jets defense last week on the road. And the Panthers defense has played well recently, but they're nowhere near the level of the Jets defense. So I'm confident in the over in this game. Do believe the Panthers will be able to move the ball very well on the ground against the Lions because their defensive line has not played great on the road. And if you look at the over, it's 11-5 in the Lions' last 16 games. And so my recommendation is to bet the over in this matchup between the Lions and the Panthers.
Listen, Lions and Tigers and Bears, oh my, I am a believer in this Lions team with Dan Campbell, that's for sure. Really impressive win last week against the Jets. And keep in mind, they put up the second most yards against that great Jets defense all season long, the second most. So I like Detroit. I'll lay the points here as well. They've got a great run defense as well. And Carolina, their rushing attack went somewhere against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We didn't even see it last week. So I really like Detroit in this spot, and I'm going to lay the points. Second game, not a lot of bad weather, if any at all, and that's Washington going up against the 49ers. 49ers favored by 7. The over-under's 37.5. What's your play here?
Yeah, the play that I really like in this matchup, Anita, is to bet on the 49ers to cover the spread in the first half. And so the line's at -4. And I look at it this way. You got a Washington team that's going to have to travel all the way across the country, to California, to end up playing the 49ers. And in addition to that, it's a short week, so they've already got that going against them. And if you dive deeper, they've started off games slow this season, averaging 8.6 points per game in the first half of games this season. So the 49ers offense and defense will be ready to play. I anticipate they'll get off to a fast start. But if you look at San Francisco, they're 10-4 against the spread in the first half of games this year. So that's the bet that I like in this game. Bet the 49ers to cover the spread in the first half.
So I'm going to play the 49ers. I'm not shy about buying the hook, so I'll buy it down to -6.5. And also, I think this is a good spot to use the 49ers as a 2-team 6-point teaser and tease them down to -1. Listen, Washington got their hearts torn out of them last week with the horrible calls we saw from the refs against the Giants. Now they have to travel across the country to try to beat arguably the best defense in the NFL with the 49ers. Good luck with that. Purdy's been great. 6 touchdowns, 1 interception since he's been starting. So I really like the 49ers in this matchup. Let's talk about the Giants going up against the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings at home in a dome, controlled temperatures. They're favored by 4. The over-under is 48.
Yeah, I look at this matchup, and it's a prop bet that I like. So I'm really drawn to this prop like a moth to the flame. Dalvin Cook over 98.5 rushing plus receiving yards. I'm like, the Vikings would benefit immensely if they lean heavily on Cook in the running game in this matchup. They rank 26 in the league with only 23.4 rushing attempts per game. But you look at this matchup against the Giants, I'm like, he's in a position to exceed this number if they just give him the touches. Because the Giants defense have allowed the 3rd most rushing yards per game to opponents this season. And even with the limited touches he has gotten, I'm like, Cook has averaged 93.5 total yards per game this season. So again, there's a strong chance in this matchup, given how favorable it is, that he'll exceed the 98.5 rushing plus receiving yards in this game. So that's what I would bet on.
I love the Giants in this spot. I'll take the points. And again, I know I'm a teaser here. I'm all about teasers, but man, what a great spot to tease the Giants here as well, Eric. Tease them up to +10. Why not? They're feeling good about themselves coming off a great win against Washington. Now they travel to Minnesota. And really, I'm keying in on the fact that the Giants defense, with Thibodeau being healthy, Ojulari, can really get after Kirk Cousins and a less than impressive offensive line. I think that's really going to be key, and I think Dable's really going to be able to put together a great scheme and a great game plan against a pass defense with Minnesota ranked 31st in the NFL. So I like the Giants here. Last but not least, let's talk about Philadelphia and the Dallas Cowboys. Can't wait for this one. Gardner Minshew getting the start. Dallas Cowboys favored by 4.5. The over-under is 46.5. What's your play?
You know what? I'm really excited about this game too, and I'm actually going to back the Eagles. And so I think they can outright win this game or to keep it close, and here's why. You got Gardner Minshew. I'm like, he's got 22 starts in his career so far. He's averaged 243 passing yards per game in those starts. If you're a fantasy football person, he's averaged 17.3 fantasy points per game in those starts. He's got a great supporting cast. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert's going to be back. And the Eagles' offensive line is the difference maker in this game, in my opinion. They're great at run blocking. They're great at pass blocking. I believe that they'll be able to handle the defensive front of Dallas. And because of that, I love the Eagles in this matchup. I think they can outright win, but I believe it'll be close if they do lose. So I'm backing the Eagles here.
Yeah, lockstep with you. I love the Eagles. If anyone knows anything about me, they've been watching me on Daily Wager for the past few years. I'm all about Gardner Minshew. So give me the Eagles and the points for sure. And again, great opportunity. I love these. There's so many good teams this week that are dogs that I love using in 2-team 6-point teasers and teasing them up. Minshew, he's played 30 games in his career. He's averaging 68% completion percentage with the Philadelphia Eagles 2 years ago and averaging averaging almost 9 yards per passing play this past year. Also, their defense has been great, number one in takeover rate. Meanwhile, Dak Prescott has been throwing interceptions left and right. So I think the matchup bodes well, even though it's not Jalen Hurts, who a lot of people have in that MVP discussion. I still believe in Gardner Minshew. Eric, thank you so much for joining us with your wonderful, ugly sweater. It's been a pleasure having you on Bet. Enjoy the Thursday night game tonight, my friend.
Absolutely. Take care.
You got it. All right, so again, big game. Eagles, Cowboys. Let's do an even deeper dive into this matchup. Tim McManus, who does a great job covering the Eagles, has the latest with the news that Gardner Minshew is going to start for the Eagles this week. Let's listen in.
Thank you, Anita. Well, the offense obviously is going to change to some degree without Jalen Hurts. He brings that dual element dynamic that has made this offense borderline unstoppable. But they can still do some of that. Gardner Minshew can run a little bit, so you can do some of the zone read looks, but mainly you're going to be relying on your strengths, and that is an offensive line that can really bulldoze for you. Miles Sanders, who has over 1,100 yards, and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, who are just excellent weapons in the passing game, along with tight end Dallas Goedert. I don't think Minshew has to put too much on his shoulders, really just play point guard, distribute the ball quickly. That's something that players have been talking about, that he's been getting the ball out lightning quick. Just do more of that to help isolate that pass rush of Dallas, and the Eagles could walk away with the victory.
Tim, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Now, Todd Archer joins us, who does a phenomenal job covering the Cowboys. Man, big news today for the Cowboys. What is the team saying about the fact that now a much different quarterback in regard to his skill set that the Cowboys have to prepare for?
Yeah, Anita, they went into this week saying they were preparing for both quarterbacks because that's kind of what you're supposed to say. But they had a feeling once that shoulder injury was announced for Jalen Hurts that it would be Gardner Minshew. So they looked at a game they played against Minshew last year, the final game of the season. He had 186 yards passing. He was intercepted once. They sacked him 3 times, and the Cowboys won the game pretty handily. Now, the Eagles didn't play a lot of their guys. They rested their guys going into the playoffs, and A.J. Brown was not on that team. And the Cowboys defense was really playing probably a lot better going into that game than this one is right now. A banged-up defense with a lot of questions, especially in the secondary. So they've been preparing for Gardner Minshew. They expect him to target their cornerbacks opposite Trayvon Diggs and try to go through the air. It helps the Cowboys, though, and kind of what Tim was saying, you really eliminate a lot of the quarterback runs, especially the short yardage runs, where Hurts was extremely effective.
And let's talk about Dak Prescott, the quarterback on the opposite side of the line, who has not been stellar as of late. 9 interceptions he's thrown since week 10, Todd. So what gives? What's the issue? And can it be corrected against the Eagles, who are the #1 takeaway defense in the NFL?
Right, it better be corrected, right? Because if the Cowboys really want to do anything in the playoffs, it's about protecting the ball, and you can't turn it over. And this has not been part of Dak's MO really his entire career. He has more interceptions in really, I want to say, about half the passes that he threw a year ago. So this is really abnormal. Some of it's luck or bad luck. Some of it is poor decision making. But Prescott was telling us this week, he's like, look, I'm not going to go in a shell. I'm going to stay aggressive. I'm going to trust my guys that they can make plays. You're going against 2 tough cornerbacks this week in Bradbury and Slay. He'll have to be smart with the ball. He's been smart with the ball, and he's also been successful against the NFC East. He's 26-6 all-time against the division. He's not lost a division game since 2019. So Dak Prescott, as much as there's pressure on him, I think he knows how to respond in these situations, and he has to respond if the Cowboys want to be considered legitimate contenders.
So, Todd, bigger picture here, 3 games remaining. In order for the Dallas Cowboys to win the division, they'll have to win their next 3. The Eagles are going to have to lose out. And in order to do that, team's going to have to be healthy. So where do they stand health-wise, and how do you see this playing out as we get closer to the end of the regular season?
Yeah, health-wise, they'll be out without Leighton Vander Esch, one of their leading tacklers. He has a trap injury or a nerve injury in his shoulder that knocked him out in the first quarter last week against Jacksonville. That's a pretty big loss for this defense. They'll look to rookie Damone Clark to take over a little bit for him, and Anthony Barr, the veteran, as well. And they got some guys dealing with a flu bug or an illness going around the locker room. Micah Parsons, he missed 2 practices during the week. They expect him to play. Trayvon Diggs did not practice today, but they believe he'll be able to go. This is a defense, though, that isn't the same defense that we saw in the beginning of the season. A pass rush that's really been dominant, has only 1 sack in their last 2 games. But they believe that this game, it's not about staying in the division race or staying in home field advantage. If they win this one, even without Hurts, that if these teams were to meet again in the divisional round of the playoffs or later, that they would be able to take some confidence going into a playoff matchup up in Philadelphia sometime in January.
Great stuff as always, Todd. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, really looking forward to this game on Christmas Eve. Thank you. All right, as always, we like to end Bet with Before I Let You Go. And since it's the holiday spirit, I'm going to leave you with my favorite Christmas Day game, and that's the Green Bay Packers. Give me the points. Give me the 4 with the Green Bay Packers going up against the Miami Dolphins in Miami. Rodgers 14-9 against the spread as a dog. He's covered 8 of his last 9 games. The Packers offense has scored 109 points their last 4 games. And as we saw last week, finally getting their wide receiving core healthy. Aaron is working with a full arsenal, and A.J. Dillon has passed concussion protocol. He's got 4 touchdowns his last 3 games. Meanwhile, Miami, they're back at home. Disappointing loss against the Bills. Their defensive players have been on the field 250 plays the last 3 games. So no bueno. I think this matchup is all about the Green Bay Packers. So take the Packers in the points. Merry Christmas, everybody, from all of us here at Bet. To you, happy holidays to you and yours.